welcome to the Fourth Branch program. Glad you can make it. I am MD. This program is dedicated exclusively for those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a determination for a more perfect union. Stay tuned as we begin the discussion of a very important, interesting, and enlightening topic. Hope to hear from you soon. Happy listening. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who is the 32nd President of the United States, said, "We must especially beware of that small group of selfish men who would clip the wings of the American eagle in order to feather their own nest." Ignorance is the biggest threat to any democracy. It is, however, the ignorance of the ignorance which represent the greatest danger to a society. It is what turns an ignorant man into a lunatic. Thus lies the danger, the peril even of a man, a community, a state, a country, and yes, even a society. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, said that the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all. Indeed, it does. We've seen it, haven't we? We've witnessed it. We are all living it, are we not? All men are born ignorant. Many have chosen to stay and live in ignorance. Only a few recognize that ignorance is the stem and the root of all evil, and choose to be ignorant no more. Hello everyone, I am MD, and this is the Fourth Branch program. Today, we have a very special program which is enlightening, informative, and educational. Stick around, I'll be right back. Join me here on the Fourth Branch at 10:30 a.m. every Saturday. And every weekday at 2 p.m. This is the Fourth Branch.
Common sense in a world of chaos.
This program will resume in just a moment. Today, we continue the discussion on the welfare for the rich and the benefits cut for the lower class. We started this discussion before the midterm, the 2018 midterm election. We have discussed Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and now we are in the midst of discussing the welfare. Now, I must say very quickly that those items that I mentioned actually fall under the welfare system, the welfare program. However, we have chosen to discuss each one of those items individually and decide to discuss the welfare under the umbrella of how it is perceived right here in the United States of America. For reasons that are understandable, most people in the United States are more inclined to separate the welfare system from those items that I just mentioned earlier. If you have not had the opportunity to watch those programs that I discussed at great length, we have at least 5+ hours of discussion on those topics. I strongly encourage you to visit the People Branch YouTube channel. We will provide that information at the bottom of the program. On the People Branch YouTube channel, you'll find not only the discussion about those items that I just mentioned, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and now the welfare program, but any of the other topics that we have already discussed in this program, you will find already archived on the People Branch YouTube channel. Today, we will address the welfare program with a bit of twist. We started since after the election to discuss some of the basic detail and lay down the foundation for the discussion of the welfare program. Now, just a quick recap. We have been talking about why today we have a problem with the welfare program, with the welfare system. Now, today, this is Veteran Day. And because of the holiday, we have decided to draw a parallel which will help us to even enlarge the discussion on the welfare program and get an understanding as to why, number one, it is a program that needs to be strengthened, and it is also a program that needs to be explained to the rest of us. Because the Republican Party has done an extremely great job vilifying the program and make certain that a number of people who are not just eligible but who are in dire need of public assistance are shunning the whole program. And that is not good for our society, and that is not good for the American government, and that is not good for the future of the country. And I will show you why, and I will explain why. We did mention that we will try to provide you a brief recap, a brief overview of the welfare system. It's obvious that we cannot cover everything on the program here, because obviously we have to attend to other topics of importance. But the second aspect of the program that we wish to discuss is to show the pros and the cons, and to also debunk the myth about the welfare system. Now, those are the programs that we're talking about: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the welfare system. Today, we will talk about the origin of the welfare system. So we will stay within the boundaries of this discussion, and we will also, as I mentioned earlier, discuss that in parallel with this holiday, which is the Veteran Holiday. Now, what's wrong with welfare? If you listen to Republican in particular, if you listen to Republican in general, and if you tune into Fox or Breitbart, InfoWars, or listen to any of the program which are dubbed, now I'm just going to use the term so that I can relate to those who belong to that group, they call conservative, they call Republican, Christian, and so on. This group, although I already explained that there is nothing conservative about most Republican, there is nothing Christian about most Republican, but for reason that they love the label, but they cannot live the life of those who would fall under that category. That aside, what is wrong with welfare? For one, is one of the myths that I wish to debunk, and I also wish to bring with me in the discussion another important aspect to help understand that what the Republican pundit and the Republican politician, especially those running for the office of the presidency, the damage they have done to the country when they try to vilify the whole process of the welfare system. And I say that because it is important to understand that there is absolutely nothing wrong with the welfare system. But let's take a look at the origin of the welfare. The actual official implementation of the welfare state was actually started in Germany in the 19th century. Now, I don't think it needs a lot of explanation to understand why the government, it was most the first under the Chancellor of von Bismarck, who was the Chancellor actually who implemented the welfare system in Germany. Again, there is no reason to try to explain the reasoning or the rationale behind that. There has always been poverty has always been a state of affair in any country. There is not a single country in the world that doesn't have some people who live in poverty. It's sometimes mind-boggling to grasp that concept, to understand why in the world that even very wealthy industrialized country have quite a few people who are living in poverty. Now, we're not here to try to resolve this issue in one sitting, but we wish to bring attention to some aspect of it that I believe that can be addressed, and there is no reason for that not to be the case. Now, here in the United States, for the same reason that Germany made an official effort to implement a welfare system, here in the United States as well, we had a similar predicament. That there are times in history that one would say that it is more difficult financially for some people than at other times. For instance, quick example, during the Clinton administration, that the country was doing extremely well. Unemployment was at a time low, and almost everybody get a job. Some people were just leaving job and move to the next one, whichever pays more, and so on. And leaving the Clinton administration behind, and we get into the George W. Bush administration, and suddenly you start seeing a decline in the level of financial comfort that people enjoy. So it fluctuates, but there are some groups that suffer more than others. Right here in the United States, for instance, even when things are going well, you would notice that the minority class, blacks in particular, always have a much higher percentage of individuals who are unemployed. Now, it is almost impossible to well, not impossible, but the politics of getting rid of poverty makes it almost impossible to solve poverty, especially in rich countries. I say that is because if we take the United States of America, there is no reason that poverty could not be completely eliminated. Now, it may sound like a daunting task because, gee, how could we get everybody out of poverty? That's the first big picture that pops on somebody's mind and say, is it possible? Of course it's possible, and I'm going to show you that there are a number of opportunities that are available if we had the management, the system in place. There is no reason for poverty not to be completely eradicated from the United States of America. Now, welfare is not meant to eradicate poverty, but it is a tool that can be used for that very purpose. Now, because we want to bring the parallel with the veteran, because of the very fact today is Veteran Day, and welfare system that are in place could be used in order to help those who have served the country, who have given the country their all, would not have, once they complete their service to the country, would not have to live a life in poverty, would not have to be homeless, would not have to be on the street. But there is a reason that a lot of our veterans actually not only live in poverty, but a great number of them are homeless. And the reason, you may not actually believe that, but to a certain extent, Republican pundits are indirectly responsible for that very predicament. How so, you ask? Watch every presidential campaign. And by every presidential campaign, I mean every presidential campaign, that you will find that mostly the Republican candidate would bring attention to the welfare system. Not in a good way. In fact, you may remember that Rick Santorum was giving his pep talk to his fan base, and I'm paraphrasing here, that the welfare system, because the Republican in general, they tend, well, I should say the Republican constituent, the Republican leaders, not so much the Republican constituent, because the Republican constituent in most aspects seems to be smarter than the Republican politician. Now, that's not absolutely true, because the Republican politician actually exploit anger and frustration of the Republican constituent in order for them to get elected. It is Machiavellian for anybody to do, but that's what Republican leaders do. Rick Santorum was running for the presidency of the United States, and it gave a pep talk to his base, to his supporters, those who were rallying behind him, who wanted him to become the nominee, by saying that, of course, as president, he's going to eliminate the idea of people on welfare, because he thinks it's unfair for those who are working hard to be the one supporting those who just sit at home and drinking vodka, eating caviar, while the rest of those people are actually hard at work and feeding their routine. Now, in order to understand that, you also have to understand that whenever you hear Republican politicians talk about the welfare system, they always pointing fingers to blacks in general, minority in particular. So when you hear Rick Santorum say something like that, that's really what it means. It's talking about, well, the black people. So what is the best way to rally white people to support you when you say, well, we're going to kick those blacks out of welfare? FYI, there are more whites on welfare than there are blacks. Of course, the candidate never mentioned any such thing because that is not good to rally supporters. So that's not going to be, you're not going to expect to hear those kind of things. It sounds better when you say, oh, those dumb blacks, those lazy blacks who sit on their butt and waiting for you to take care of them. It sounds better because it's a rallying theme, and the whites that are already racist, bigots, and of course frustrated, and if they're out of work or they can barely make ends meet, the image of some welfare queen, as was coined by Ronald Reagan, sitting, eating caviar, drinking cognac, and eating steak, eating steak, and so on. That picture doesn't really evoke happiness. It evokes anger, frustration, and you want a candidate who promise that he's going to take care of that. Of course, we know it's a bunch of baloney, but nevertheless, at the time that they were saying that, it sounds good. They support that individual. Now, lately, further down the road, you may remember Mitt Romney caught on tape talking about the 47% who are not going to vote for him because they rely on food stamp, and of course, Obama is a food stamp president. So, we already know what causes the big problem in the welfare system. Not the actual reality, but the perception of what it is. Which brings me to the veteran. Hold that thought. We'll be right back to discuss exactly that, to show you how the Republican pundit, the Republican leaders, not so much the constituent, because the constituents seem to know better because they live among people. They live among different various individuals, and they see that's not necessarily the case. But unfortunately, on the campaign trail, their minds are not processing those information. They're simply hearing someone who is saying that things are really bad, but guess who's causing it? Those damn blacks, lazy blacks, who do not want to go to work, and they're the one that's causing you to have to work hard and to take care of them. That's really the picture that Republican leaders portray or paint about blacks, about the welfare system. And that picture is amplified by pundits like Fox. Fox in particular is the big mouthpiece that pretty much propagandize everything that says in the Republican circle. A pin is dropped on the floor. You cannot hear any sound, but fear not. Fox microphone will amplify it for you. You'll hear the sound loud and clear. And that's also another major issue in terms of social problem here in the United States, because the very people who could have educated, instructed their constituent, their audiences, those are the very same people who are actually exacerbating the problem. Sometimes it's because they ignorant themselves, but most of the time it's because this is what they use to keep an audience glued to them, because that's how they make their money, by lying, by misleading, by misinforming. So that create that kind of social problem here in the United States. Now, how does the veteran fit in this whole picture? We'll be right back. Ignorance, they say, is the biggest threat to any democracy. Indeed, it is. Plato, a Greek philosopher born in 427 BC, said that ignorance is the root and stem of all evil. Today, members in the Republican Party wear ignorance as a badge of honor, while the rest of the country watch powerless the destruction of a country which was once the envy of the world. The media is the enemy of the country, said Donald Trump. The Democrat legislators are obstructionists for not going along with everything the president wants. The Department of Justice is biased for investigating corruption in the Trump administration. This is the United States of America. Any question?
I'm telling you, Michael Jordan himself was right here in my McDonald's. I fixed him the very first McJordan special. Right, Bill. I did. I took a quarter-pound of pure beef, smoked bacon, cheese, and some of my favorite barbecue sauce, and I named it the McJordan Special.
Bill, the sandwich, definitely great.
Yeah, but you got the cooling with that story. But it's true.
How you doing, Bill?
Hi, Michael. Michael.
The McJordan Special, for a limited time.
We are not going to turn over.
I started to explain that the idea of the welfare system has been vilified so much by the Republican politician and the Republican pundit. Again, it's not so much the constituent. So we're talking about the masses who should have been the one that are the least informed, look on the surface anyway that they are not. Now the reason, again, as I mentioned, is because the politicians seek to capitalize on people's anger, frustration, so they bring and continue to lie about the whole system of welfare. Now I'm going to say two things that absolutely may be absolutely controversial but necessary. One, the welfare system is absolutely necessary in every country. There should be a welfare system. Now, this is not a promotion for welfare, but you will understand shortly as to why that is necessary. And the second thing I want to say, that is not necessarily about a system, but that has to do with the claim that usually Republicans make, but that cannot match their life, their action, their word. Most Republicans usually want to claim they are Christian, right? And yet, whenever it comes to acting as a Christian, there is nothing Christian about their lives. They want to punish the poor. They want to kick down the poor. They want to really trample on those who have financial difficulties. Of course, they will explain that to you in a different way. So those people that you hear on the radio, on TV, that are telling you they're Christian conservative, they this, that, the label sounds good. And in fact, that's something I've been writing about for quite some time now, debunking the claims made by Republicans in general, because they claim to be Christian, they claim to be conservative. In my writing, I question whether they even understand the meaning of those expressions, because it's either they don't, or they simply disingenuous, because you cannot claim to be a Christian when it comes time for you to help those in need, and you have every excuse in the book. Yes, as I mentioned, they have every excuse in the book as to why, because they tell you, yes, those people, they're a bunch of lazy, they this, they that. They cannot prove any of that. And I can tell you one more thing about that, is the fact that there is not a single individual. Well, actually, I take that back. You may find a couple, but in general, no one that who find himself or herself in a predicament to have to seek for public assistance would want to continue in that predicament. No one. So when you hear Republican pundit, people on the radio, on TV, talking like as if there are some people who just want. But here's what's even more ironic about those type of claims. Unless someone were to be completely stupid or ridiculous, how much do you think people get on welfare for them to want to spend their life just collecting food stamp? Now, this is a topic for another day, because today we're discussing the origin of the whole thing, and we want to bring to your attention a parallel with the veteran today that are homeless. Now, here in the United States of America, when Obama came, walked into the Oval Office, there were approximately, according to record, there were approximately 75,000 veterans who were homeless, living on the street, obviously. And what that means, they could barely live. And notice I said veteran. In terms of homeless, total homeless in the United States of America, if I'm not mistaken, that in that same time frame, there were approximately a little bit more than 500,000 on the street. But for veteran, there were 75,000. Now, it was something that was of importance to the Obamas, Michelle in particular, who took upon herself to work towards improving the lives of the veteran. And one of the program, at least the movement that was being implemented under the Obama, was to get every single veteran off the street. Now, obviously that wasn't achieved, but in 2016, by the time that Obama was getting ready to leave office, the number has dropped from 75,000 to 40,000. It's progress, but that wasn't enough, because the very idea of having veterans on the street should bother every American. The reason? Those are the people who sacrificed their lives, sometimes families, because some of those veterans that on the street, sometimes they come back from war, from deployment, and they don't have a family because they come with problems. And the family that they left behind no longer want them. So they become homeless. Now, if you listen to Republicans talking about armed forces, people would want to join because it's a rosy picture of how they're going to take care of armed forces, armed personnel. Again, as I said, Republicans love talking about things. They love labor, but when it comes to action, you'll be hard-pressed to find their action match their words. The welfare system here in the United States was primarily put in place to help the unemployed and the underemployed. It's almost like the idea of collecting Social Security when you lose your job. But it was expanded to add the other individual people who do not have a job, people who are, for instance, the idea for when you're on welfare, you can use Medicaid as your health insurance, and those kind of programs were extended to women, children, etc. And in fact, it's still known today under what they call the WIC program. It's women, infant, children. That's really what the WIC program is about. But the mind job that the Republican pundit and the Republican politician seeking to win public office have done in the mind of people make the welfare system such a bad thing that anyone with pride want to avoid it at all costs. Remember, I said earlier that the welfare system is not just something that should be, but that's something that should be strengthened and encouraged for any and all individuals who are in financial situation to seek help. Now, because of the name, because of the kind of vitriolic language used by pundits in particular, as far as welfare is concerned, most people with a certain level of pride would rather be on the street homeless than going and seek assistance, public assistance. And that's where our veteran comes in. The veteran, as I mentioned, the vets, they serve our country. They're not, even during the time that, even peacetime, when they're not deployed, it's not that it's not like they're getting paid so much they can save so much money for rainy days. That's one. And second, usually they leave a family behind. Meaning, while they're on deployment, whatever paycheck that they could have received or should have received actually sent to family at home, wife and children. So those individuals, the vets, usually, of course, while in deployment, they taken care of by the government. They on deployment. But they don't have financial stability because there is nothing really that they have to fall back on when they come back home. Now, the individual left behind could be a husband or a wife with kids. Now, the check that they receive usually take care of the family. Rent a home or pay a mortgage, buy food, buy clothes, take the kids to school, and so on and so forth. So when that individual, the veteran, come back home, let's just say at the time that that veteran comes home, if you remember the Iraq war, some of them go several deployment. But when they finally come back home, they are no longer the same individual who was married to that person that they left behind. Because they have seen things, they have done things, their mind is different. No matter how strong of a human being you are, when you're seeing things happening right in front of you, body part being blown off, or your colleagues, your whole team, your whole team could be completely destroyed right under your eyes, and you could be the only survivor. And you could also lose limbs, but still survive. So you have a number of things that those vets, when they come back, usually they cannot really, they do not have a family. Some really struggle to reassimilate in society. And this is the reason most of the time a lot of our vets end up on the street. Now we have this mindset thinking that people on the street are crazy people. Once someone is homeless, someone is poor, then he's just a crazy individual. Now, granted that there are some people who have psychological problems that also are on the street. But there is also the flip side that some people, veterans, that came back with problem, mental problem, psychological problem, and end up on the street, homeless, and they too may develop psychological problem or mental problem because they weren't being taken care of. Our government deployed them to go to war, but there is nothing to help them when they come back. So they end up on the street. Now the reason for quite a few of them, a high percentage of those veterans, the reason that they landed on the street is because a number of them prefer to be homeless, to beg for money, than going to seek public assistance and be on welfare. That is not good, because it is not good, but the reason that they rationalize that way is because way before they were on deployment, they grew up in the country, so they understand the culture, and the idea of individual on welfare is the picture is a bad picture in their mind. It's like someone who simply is not worth anything. Courtesy of the Republican, of course, because they vilified the idea of people who have a need to seek for public assistance and at some point manage to get out of it, because no one, as I mentioned earlier, unless you listen to Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, Bill O'Reilly and the like, Rush Limbaugh and so on, you would not get a sense that people do not stay on welfare. Because what you would get is that those people on welfare, because those individuals paint you the picture of blacks on welfare, and they just don't want to get out of welfare because things are so good for them. One, there are more whites on welfare than there are blacks. And two, no one on welfare wants to stay on welfare. Again, as I say, unless you listen to idiot like Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, those people at Fox, Rush Limbaugh and company, they live to lie to you, to misguide you, to get you angry, because that's what gives them a job. That's what keeps their job. Because the angrier you are, the more you want to listen to more stuff that makes you even angrier. That's what they live for. They don't tell you anything that, they don't educate you, they don't instruct you of what's really going on, because it's not to their advantage. If you become knowledgeable, if you become informed, you will stop listening to them. So yes, they have every reason to keep you ignorant on every aspect of life in the United States. So if you don't listen to those fools, I guarantee you, you would know that people on welfare do not stay on welfare. The welfare system, whether it's here in the United States or anywhere that there is a welfare program, is made for people to transition from a bad financial situation to a better one. Now, we have in the United States of America, as of date, while I'm talking to you now, according to record, at least 40,000 veterans homeless on the street. Yes, pushing cart, eating out of a trash. Yes, 40,000 veterans. People who have served this country, who have given the country their all, who have sacrificed everything, including their own lives, their families, to defend the country, to preserve our freedom. We have 40,000 of those people on the street. Now, we have heard conversation after conversation about, we cannot let that happen to our vet. My God, how could we let that happen? Those people have served the country, and when they come back, they don't have anywhere to turn. We don't take care of them. I mean, that conversation happens every year, especially Veteran Day. That conversation always happens. What doesn't happen is any one of those individuals would never open the door to suggest that those veterans, when they come back, they should take advantage of the welfare system while they're trying to get back on their feet. They would never say any such thing. Because for God's sake, those people on welfare, they're milking the system. Are they? And that is the hypocrisy, and that is the irony of the whole thing. Do you know that Mitt Romney's father, George Romney, was on welfare at some point? Did you know that? The same Mitt Romney that was talking about the 47% who are not going to be voting for him because those people are taking advantage of the welfare system. Remember that? Yes, his father at some point had a hard time in his life, was on welfare. Now, I didn't say that in order to diminish the fact that it is okay when someone is in financial problem in the United States of America or any industrialized country for you to seek for financial help, for financial assistance until you can get back on your feet. Now, the individual that have done, and this is the irony of the whole thing, and that's the reason you see on your screen, I put side by side that contrast to show you how callous, how indifferent Republicans in general are. They are very, very indifferent towards those who need help. You remember how easy it was for the Republican to drum up the beat or to beat the drum of the $1.5 trillion tax cut for the wealthy, what I call welfare for the wealthy. Yes, it was a handout. They didn't have any problem whatsoever. In fact, in one swoop, they borrowed $1.5 trillion. They took 1.3 out of that and gave it to large corporation and wealthy individual. But whenever it comes, I didn't hear a peep from Sean Hannity. I didn't hear a peep from Laura, from Tucker Carlson, from Fox and Friends, from Bill O'Reilly, from Rush Limbaugh, all those people who are always so eager, so quick to bash those who are in financial need. You didn't hear a single peep out of them. The country borrowed $1.5 trillion just to give to people, to large corporations who already have plenty. Not a single peep. And yet, our veteran on the street, you don't hear a single one of them saying, why don't we do something about that? We have a welfare system that can help them get back on their feet. Oh no, you're not going to see that because, you know, welfare for the poor should not be encouraged. Welfare for the rich, yeah. This is exactly what the United States of America live for. So yes, the Republicans, especially those you would consider leaders, those you would consider, those are the people who should have known better, who should have encouraged people in need, in financial need, to take advantage of what is offered as public assistance so that they can get back on their feet. And we have example after example of such people that were on welfare, they get back on their feet and they get better. I just give you the example of George Romney. George Romney, Mitt Romney's father, was on welfare. In fact, I do think we have that on tape, don't we? Yes, we do have that on tape. I'll give you a quick listen to George Romney's wife talking about that in particular. So it's not a made-up story that Mitt Romney's father was on welfare. Mitt Romney's father, George Romney, was on welfare when he wasn't doing well. But guess what? Later on in life, he was doing so well that I believe that he ran for governor of I'm not sure of which state. I'm inclined to say Michigan or Ohio, but he did run for governor, but prior to that, prior to him becoming a wealthy individual that really pretty much make Mitt Romney grow up as someone with a silver spoon in his mouth, Mitt Romney's father, George Romney, had to take advantage of the welfare system. And yet, Mitt Romney had the gall to be bashing people who find themselves in that very predicament his father was. Don't go anywhere. We'll cue the tape so that you can have a listen to George Romney's wife, I believe Lenora Romney, if I'm not mistaken, talking exactly about that. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Ignorance, they say, is the biggest threat to any democracy. Indeed, it is. Plato, a Greek philosopher born in 427 BC, said that ignorance is the root and stem of all evil. Today, members in the Republican Party wear ignorance as a badge of honor, while the rest of the country watch powerless the destruction of a country which was once the envy of the world. The media is the enemy of the country, said Donald Trump. The Democrat legislators are obstructionists for not going along with everything the president wants. The Department of Justice is biased for investigating corruption in the Trump administration. This is the United States of America. Any question?
Romney, do you think your husband, if elected, will be a good governor?
I think he'll do well with time.
This is obviously a biased viewpoint. Why do you think he will be a good governor?
Because when he does anything, he does it with his heart. And I believe, having known him ever since I was 15, that if he has an opportunity to do something in Michigan, that he'll give it all of his energy, all of his talent, all of his experience, everything in the world he's had all these years, to do something for Michigan and for the people of Michigan. And that's why I think he'll be such a good governor.
You mentioned the people. There are those who say that since he's a man of considerable means, he really doesn't care about people.
Well, you know, we've only owned our homes for the last 4 years. He was a refugee from Mexico. He was on relief, welfare relief, for the first years of his life. But this great country gave him opportunities. His family were poor. He was poor. He said they lived for a year on nothing but potatoes.
You just heard it from Lenora Romney, that George Romney's wife. George was Mitt Romney's father. You heard it directly from his wife, that clearly said on the first year of his life here in the United States, he was on the welfare program. The welfare program is not something for people to feel belittled by. Some people have it easy. Mitt Romney was born when he didn't have to know, he didn't know about his father who had to struggle and be on welfare. When I say he didn't know, of course he knew. I'm sure that it's something that must have been talked about in the family. So there is no doubt in my mind that he knew the story that his father was at some point on welfare. So it is disingenuous for Mitt Romney in particular, Republican leaders and pundits in general, to try to vilify people who are on welfare. As I mentioned, no one gets on the welfare system and say, gee, that is so great. I want to stay there forever, the rest of my life. This is, if it's that good, if they think it's that good, why don't they go in there and stay too? If they think it's that good, I know they know it's not that good, because no one is stupid enough to think that people on welfare are having such a wonderful time without going to work, without having to do anything. And yet, those same people that are telling you that, they're not taking advantage of that. Is it because they have a higher level of morality? Of course not. We've seen them, we've heard them, we've seen them in action. Their level of morality is at the lowest level that you can think of. So we know it's not because of morale. We know it's not because of their decency. They don't have any. So if it's that good to be on welfare, why don't they take advantage of that too? So we know it's not that good. But Mitt Romney's father, George Romney, is not the only individual who were on welfare and who have turned life around and become not only productive element of society, but also have contributed greatly to society. George Romney has. In fact, that's the reason Mitt Romney now is the senator from Utah. He was governor of Massachusetts. He ran for president. I mean, he is an accomplished man, very successful. But his father had to be on welfare. And for some reason, those people, they may hide that predicament. Because even those people talking, if you were to go back enough in their family, you probably will find that they have family members who actually were in that same predicament. It's okay if you have if you are in financial bind, to be on welfare so that you can get back on your feet. And that's the reason today we have veterans who are homeless. And there is no reason for that to be the case, because had they taken advantage of the welfare system, they would have been found a place to be. They would have at least been given a way of life while they're trying to make something of themselves. But instead, they on the street scavenging for food in trash, food that people throw away. And we have the gall every so often, especially Republican, to be talking about veterans as if they care. Here are a few people that at some point in their lives, and the list is not an exhaustive list, but at least some of those people you may know. For instance, Bruce Springsteen. Who doesn't know Bruce Springsteen? He's the singer of the famous song Born in the USA. He was on welfare at some point in his life because he had time. He had to. Pat Murray, I'm not sure exactly, but Senator Patty Murray. I think she's a four-term Democrat from Washington, and she was the first female who was chair of the Senate Budget Committee. She used to be on food stamp. Now, while Bruce Springsteen is well known and Patty Murray may not be as well known to you, but I'm sure you may have heard of Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson. He is currently the Secretary of Housing. That black guy, the only black guy in the Trump administration. Yes, Ben Carson. He was raised in a home where his mother had to be on welfare. Guess what? Things have changed. He has made a life for himself. So it's okay. So when you're hearing people, and the reason that our veterans are not seeking public assistance, be on welfare, is because of those idiots like Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, Fox and Friends. You get the gist. Who have vilified people on welfare to the point they make it almost as if it's the worst thing in the world. Good for them, they don't have to be on welfare. But our veteran should not be on the street, homeless, scavenging for food. If only they were on public assistance. And if you don't know why, now here's what most of them say. They have their pride. And the reason that pride prevent them from being on public assistance is because they heard what they say about people on welfare. So to a certain degree, people like Sean Hannity, Fox and Friends, Fox in general, the whole station in general, except for a couple of people, they are indirectly responsible for our veterans on the street, because they are the ones that have been talking so badly about people who are on welfare, people who are trying to get themselves out of a financial bind. So they have made the welfare system such a bad thing that our veteran rather be on the street than seeking for public assistance. So Fox and all those other idiots that have been talking so much and about welfare are the ones who are responsible, although indirectly, of our veterans on the street. Remember Barbara Bono? Well, Barbara Bono challenged Chris Christie in 2013 for the governorship. She was on welfare. So, the idea that once you're on welfare, you solve some kind you lower than human, or you taking advantage of the system, is a myth that has been mostly propagandized by Fox and used by Republican politicians in order to stoke anger, to stoke frustration. But the reality is very different. It's so bad that we even seen it in movie where a family, well-to-do, middle class, and something happened, they lose everything. Now they have to go and go on public assistance. You see them hiding, disguising themselves. And the reason is because they have given a bad name to public assistance. And what makes it even worse is the people who work there, they tend to be very nasty towards those who are seeking help. So yes, the welfare system needs reform, but not the kind of reform that Republicans have been talking about. It needs reform to make certain that our veterans take advantage of that. It needs reform to make certain that those people who work there treat individuals who seek for assistance with dignity. Yes, it does need reform. There is no argument there. Now, the reason you're looking at the contrast in your screen is to show you that how callous the Republicans are. Those same Republicans that are so eager to cut benefit and public assistance are also very eager to give a handout to the rich. Now, you don't have any problem with that because, hey, giving to the rich, this is great, smile. But whenever it comes time to help those who are really, truly in need, you have a problem with that. But, hey, you are a Christian. You pray all day. You go to church. You love God. But the hell with the homeless. The hell with poor people. The hell with those who need financial help, financial assistance. But, hey, I am a Christian. I go to church every day. Yes, Republicans are lovers of labels. They like being called Christian. They like being labeled Christian conservative. There is nothing Christian about their behavior, their actions. There is nothing conservative about their actions. The welfare program was created to help those in need. The reason our veterans are homeless on the street is because, one, the so-called, those who so like our armed forces, who would do so much for it, are the same people who vilify the program that can help them not be on the street. How do Republicans reconcile those two? Mitch McConnell, a few weeks before the midterm elections, say, if we keep the House, we're going to start cutting those benefits in order to take care of the national debt. I guess Mitch McConnell didn't have any problem taking $1.5 trillion more to add to the national debt. But today, what he's suggesting, let's cut Social Security, let's cut Medicare, let's cut Medicaid, and let's cut the welfare, the public assistance program, because those people do not deserve that. We already gave the welfare money to the rich. That's what you have with Republicans in general. They have everything backwards. We'll be right back. In 1996, a small network by the name of Fox News was launched with just 17 million viewers. Today, with over 100 million people watching regularly, Fox has become the greatest threat to our democracy, constantly bombarding the airwaves with false information, distortion of facts, and outright lies, presenting to its audience as news. Fox has created an army of blissful ignorance. According to a recent survey, 82% of Fox viewers are ignorant of facts and the truth. To keep millions of people in ignorance not only prevents democracy from flourishing, but it also clears the path to authoritarianism to dictatorship. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Let me finish by saying that democracy cannot survive in an environment where truth and facts do not matter. At Fox, truth and facts do not matter. Indeed, democracy in America is in jeopardy. It is a crisis the country can no longer ignore. We will continue this discussion, and tomorrow we will provide information about who are the individuals who are recipients of the welfare program. Who are they? The age bracket, the race, and so on. Who are the recipient? And we will take a look at that, but we will continue the conversation about making certain that our veterans are taken care of when they either retire or have been discharged, so that they do not continue to fall into the homeless, becoming homeless, because it is one thing to talk about it is a disgrace for our veterans, those who have defended the country, to have to live in poverty. It is, of course, a disgrace, but just talking about it doesn't solve the problem. Something must be done, and we have talked enough about that something must be done. Let's talk about, at the very least, bringing a beginning of a solution for those veterans. Now, I do propose that at the very least, that those veterans, when they come back from deployment, they no longer have family, instead of being on the street, that our government open the door for them to receive public assistance while looking for a way to get back on their feet, because they have skill that can be used in other areas. So there is no reason for our veteran to be on the street and die on the street. We talk a lot about how much we care about our veteran. Now, this is just talk. And as I mentioned earlier, Republicans are very good at talking. But when it comes to showing that there is something that they're doing to change that, they no longer in the conversation. So I will continue the conversation about the welfare system, and I will continue to say it is a system that needs to be reformed, obviously, but that needs to be here for those who have financial problem. It's a system that needs to be improved, not to be cut, because we have not had any problem giving welfare to the rich. In fact, whenever welfare to the rich is proposed, Republicans overwhelmingly always for it. It is time that those of us who are sound-minded realize that the rich do not need a welfare because they already have plenty. Those who have financial situation, those who have financial problem, and of course our veteran, they require financial assistance. And if we stop minimizing, if we stop vilifying those who are seeking for public assistance, we will begin, at the very least, to remove our veteran from the street and put them in a location, in a house, put them someplace where they can start remaking their lives, because they have given enough for the country. It's time that the country give something back to the veteran. Join me here on the 4th Branch at 10:30 a.m. every Saturday. And every weekday at 2 p.m. This is the 4th Branch.
Common sense in a world of chaos.
This program will resume in just a moment. I thank you for spending the time with me. I hope you had the opportunity to learn something about the welfare system. Of course, as I mentioned, we will continue the conversation tomorrow at 2 p.m. We will take a look at those who are currently receiving public assistance. If you have any question, or if you have any topic you are interested in finding more about, do not hesitate to send us an email, send us a text, contact us on via Twitter, and let us know what you would like to hear us discuss. We will do the research and we will expose the topic. The very purpose of the 4th Branch is to provide information so that you can make decisions to help achieve a more perfect union. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. I am MD. See you tomorrow. The 4th Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the 4th Branch, live from New York. Good day.